Fives, the show of everything. Top Fives, presented by the Sex Effects. I'm Joey Prati.
And I'm Sean Day.
And folks, we do have some fun topics for you this evening. I'm pretty excited to get to these lists. But before we get to all the listings, Jonathan, a cheers, my friend. A toast.
Oh, where's my drink?
We I don't know, but we have made it. Every one of you at home has made it through 4 years. Um,
That's right.
and it ends tonight. Tomorrow morning, we get a different leader, and the orange cowboy is on his way out. So cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, man. It's been one crazy 4 years. And yeah, it's going to be quite a transition tomorrow. And I think a lot of people hopefully are going to be holding their heads higher tomorrow. We'll see. But yeah, man, it's a big deal, especially from the last. I mean, I think we talked about in the last show, like what happened at the Capitol and all the stuff transpiring into, Trump's exit from the presidency, and
Yeah.
it's just been just like the wild wild west, man, with all this kind of
Yeah.
shit. So, really excited at least that that's happening. And I can't believe 20 days is already since the New Year's. Like we're already 20 days deep into January,
Yeah.
which is kind of crazy too.
It's fucking wild.
So,
Um,
but yeah,
my
man.
least favorite 20. No. But yeah, man.
Cheers to
That's
that,
so yeah.
dude, for
Cheers
sure.
to that, sir. Yeah, I remember doing the show and kind of talking through our feelings when Trump got elected and all that kind of stuff. So it's been kind of a trip. We don't get too political on this show. We try not to. But every once in a while we got to talk about the big events of the world because
Yeah.
otherwise it's maybe a little tone deaf. I don't know, but he's been an event for the last 4 years, so
Yeah, especially on the social medias.
shit, man.
Isn't he banned from like Twitter or something right now?
He's banned from Twitter, from Facebook, from Instagram, from fucking
And he
Grinder.
was second time
Impeached.
impeached, right?
Yeah.
Which means he can't be president again in the
No,
future.
that's not what that means.
But
If they could come to that conclusion, but so basically, at least my understanding of it
yeah.
is that when you're impeached, you're going to be put on trial, and then depending on that,
How that
um,
goes.
yeah, then they just figure out the punishment, whether you're not president anymore, whether you're not allowed to run for office anymore, like, but yeah, only I believe two presidents have been actually impeached before Trump, and then Trump twice.
Yeah, that's pretty
Clinton
nuts.
for the Lewinsky thing, and
Yeah,
I
that's
want to
right.
say Andrew Johnson before that, the guy after Lincoln, I
So that's
think.
so yeah, it's quite a gap of there's only been that many. Damn, that's
Yeah,
crazy. Just to
it's
think that
wild.
we were alive, I guess, with like the Clinton stuff happening.
Yeah,
Like, man, that's pretty nuts. Whoa.
the 98 or like nine
Yeah.
years old.
Like I kind of remember it like on TV and like what was happening and all the kind of stuff with like Monica Lewinsky. But
Poor Monica Lewinsky. Can we just
yeah,
like, hey, time has shown us the error of our ways, and like she was treated so horribly, and she was what, 22. Like, could you
yeah,
imagine being 22 and being in the center of a spotlight with the most powerful man in the fucking world?
yeah.
And I don't know. There
That's a
was
whole
a
thing.
really good podcast I listened to a couple years ago, Slow Burn. They
Slow
do
burn.
different subjects, different series, but the one I listened to was kind of looking back at that whole scandal and affair, uh, with the hindsight of the Me Too movement. Very
Interesting.
eye-opening, very eye-opening, and I
Yeah.
highly suggest to listen to it. But
Interesting.
yeah.
Man. So we got 2021. Trump is out of office. Thank God. Anything else happening in maybe our pop culture news,
And
which
I don't
is
know. I've
usually
been
nothing because of
Yeah,
this year.
there's been nothing.
What was I?
Hmm, I
You know
don't
what?
really,
I did watch WandaVision. Um,
I watched, I kind of tuned in and out of it as well. What'd you think?
it was all right. I feel like I could see what they're doing. Like the first two episodes, I see like okay, this they're trying to do like the from kind of each sitcom era, and
Mm-hmm.
if this third one doesn't reel me in, I don't know. Like I know there's something bigger obviously going on outside of this
Sure.
kind of like you're trapped in the sitcom world, but yeah, it needs to kind of grab me a little bit. But I'm curious, and this is the start of all this like MCU TV shows and stuff. So just trying to see, and I guess Disney's next move for this is how we're delivering content until we can get movies back in theaters,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much.
Big
So
time.
I'm sure the quality will be there and all that, and I think it's gonna be very interesting to see what Disney's gonna be like this next year, and are people gonna like solely throw down on the Disney Plus train and stick with them. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, who knows? But yeah, I wasn't like I wasn't like blown away. It was kind of cool to like
Oh,
see the parodies on or like the sitcom kind of parodies. I thought that was really cool. It's a very interesting stylistic choice, and you can kind of do it with different eras, right? I guess, but
but about that, right?
yeah,
Because I was thinking like, oh, this is what they're gonna do. They're gonna kind of, but they didn't really do their own spin on anything, right? They just it felt like they watched a few episodes of I Love Lucy or something and took plot A from this one, plot B from that one, and nothing felt exclusive, or there was nothing marvelly about it. Like even the fact that they have powers and things like that, it's like, okay, I've seen this done on Bewitched and Bewitched did it better, or I Dream of Jeannie or anything like that. And I just kept thinking, who is this for? Because it didn't go far enough into parody of those old sitcoms. It was
yeah,
more like, it almost felt like a like Superman Returns. How that was like a loving homage to the Donner Superman films, but it
yeah.
didn't really do anything new with it. It just kind of was there. That's kind of what this felt
What it
like in
felt like,
terms of
huh?
old sitcoms and things. And I was like, I don't like this humor is dated. They're not doing anything new with it or making any kind of comment on today with it. Or maybe they were. I just wasn't paying attention because that's very possible too. But it didn't. Yeah, it didn't grab me. It does look like by the end of the second episode things are starting to change, so I'm sure the story will kind of get going, but I thought it was a very weird choice to start the series that way.
Yeah, I had the
Maybe
same
it'll make more
feeling.
sense once they're all out,
I had the
you
same feeling.
know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
But
like and I think most of the like trailers and like we've seen kind of like that, and I was thinking like, oh, this might be like the first episode. Like, okay, we'll get in this kind of like surreal world of like she's maybe trapped in this place or something. But it went from like number one to number episode two, where it's kind of like you're in
mm-hmm.
the same kind of thing, and you're slowly seeing like, okay, maybe this is like not like a real thing, or maybe she's there's a few hints I think after that like second episode. Like I think there's a part where she goes like stop and like stuff rewinds, so it makes me think like, is she
Yes,
in control of it, or um but there's still
I'm
it's still
thinking it's
mystery. Like I don't know what the hell's going on.
I think it's kind of a security blanket that she's created, a security blanket reality that she's created for herself to deal with Vision's death in
Yeah,
Endgame
because that's the thing too.
or whatever one
Vision
it was.
is supposed to be dead, so like just seeing
Mm-hmm.
him in this show immediately, it was just like, what the hell. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll
Sorry,
watch that third
Marty.
episode. I'll check it out. We'll see how it goes, and then I don't know. We'll see. I haven't really been watching much television lately, or recently. I think I just kind of finished like Cobra Kai, and then I've been watching like movies mostly. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, what was the last movie I watched? I watched so actually really I love this movie, Sing Street. I watched Sing Street um
Yeah.
like it was a couple days ago, and it was on one of those like if you go on Amazon, if you're an Amazon Prime user, there's like a section where it's like IMDb's section where
Hmm.
they give you movies with ads, and I saw it on there, and I was like, oh,
That's very
was it on
cool.
there? Yeah, it was on there, I think. But yeah,
Mm.
I thoroughly enjoyed that movie. I don't know, I was just like in a mood for like a movie where like just a bunch of kids like jamming in a band or something, and,
Hell
and
yeah.
it's a good story. I really like the story, and it kind of gives you like a kind of an evolution of these like kids and their kind of band and their sound and kind of the influences they get throughout there. So it gives you that same feeling with like that thing you do. You know what I mean? Like you get kind of stoked for the
Yeah.
kids in the band. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it, dude. How
Just
about
doing
you, Joey?
this.
What anything else you got to report or?
Man, so I sold my couch on Facebook Marketplace. I've never done that before,
Okay.
and I had a hell of a fucking time. So let me walk you through my odyssey of Facebook Marketplace. I've been looking to replace my couch.
Okay.
It's kind of the last big furniture item from my past, and wanted to replace it as one does. And you know, just the past couple months, I've been looking Facebook Marketplace. You know, and I was like, I knew what I wanted, right?
Yeah.
I get to choose it. I get to choose my shit. So I wanted leather if I could, because I'm buying on a budget here, folks. So and anyway, found this great Italian leather couch. It looked kind of maroon in the picture, and it was kind of steep. I was like, well, this is an investment, and I asked them if they would mind giving it to me for a lower price. They're like, someone already offered for a bit higher than that. But I was like, well, if it falls through, please let me know. They're like, okay. Saturday morning, I'd forgotten about this thing. Saturday morning, I'm on a walk with Marty, and I get the text, hey, it fell through. We'll accept your offer.
Okay.
And me and my brother had already made plans to hang out, and he has a truck, so me and him went over and picked up this couch. And so I've got a new couch, and it's bigger than my old one. It's leather, it's nice, it's comfy, it's new, it was well taken care of. I'm so excited about it. But I had to get rid of my old couch. And I live in 300 square feet. And so having two couches in here was a bit of a problem. And so put it up on Facebook Marketplace for like $200. Got some nibbles here and there. And so Sunday was kind of waiting around all day because this person was like, hey, I'll give you like $80, but I'll come get it right now. And I was like, fuck. At first I told him no, and then a couple hours passed and I wasn't getting any more hits. I was like, look, I'll let it go for that price if you want to come get it. And they're like, well, I'm off work at 8. I'll come by then. And I was like, okay. 8 o'clock rolls around. Hey, I'm on. My deliveries ran late. I won't be there till 9.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Okay, cool. And I'm just like, I'm just waiting, and this thing is just looking at, like leaning over me and just looking at me and just like waiting. It's like, I don't know what to do, man. 9 comes around, and they go, you're in rush now. I was like, yeah. And they're like, okay, I'm 47 minutes away. Fuck. Okay, 9:47. Okay. 10 o'clock rolls around, and I go, so are you coming? They're like, yeah, 27 minutes away. It's like, okay. 10:45 rolls around. I'll be there in 15 minutes. I go, so 11 o'clock. They go, yeah. I go, okay. I go outside, and I'm starting to like get nervous at this point. Like, am I gonna get fucking murked or something? Like, this is late. This isn't normal. This isn't good.
For a Facebook Marketplace deal going down.
Right? Yeah. I've somehow by myself got the couch out into the hallway. And the person just never fucking showed up. So finally, 11:15, 11:30, I texted and said, I got to go to bed. Thanks for your interest. And then I reported them and blocked them after they didn't respond to that. But anyway, then the next guy is like, hey, I'll give you full price. I'll be there around 6. And I said, okay. And super nice guy was like, oh, cool, this is happening. We're fine. I get the couch out into the hallway again. And we take it down to his car. And this guy it wasn't a Prius, but it was like a Prius with like a little hatchback. And I was like, that ain't gonna fit in there. And he starts opening up. He gets the cushions in, and I was like, what? So I'm helping him get the thing in, and of course it doesn't fit. And he goes, ah, shit, I didn't think about this.
Dude.
You didn't think about this? You didn't
It's a
think
couch.
about this?
Usually you hit up your homie who has like a truck, right? You know?
Yeah, usually. So it's not like he was gonna help me get it back inside. So I was like, let's just put it in front of the building. I'm gonna put a free sign on it. He's like, I'll be back later. I was like, it's first come and first serve at this point. If you want it, fine, but it's gonna be here. And if someone else gets to it first, sorry. So finally, like 2 or 3 hours later, I heard someone out there, and I looked out, and two kids. They're in their early to mid 20s. Were hauling the couch away, and I guess they saw me looking out, and they went, "Thank you, thank you." And I was like, "All right." I looked back out the window. I was like, "Have a good night. You're welcome." So it's gone finally. Anyway, that's my saga. That's the odyssey of the couch.
Dude, I feel you with the
Facebook Marketplace
couch
and
stuff.
selling shit. And that's all done. And now me and Marty have a brand new couch.
Is it comfy?
It's so comfy.
Nice.
It's so comfy. Like, I don't even want to write because I don't want to sit at my desk. I want to just be on the couch for a little bit. I want to get intimate with this thing.
That's man, yeah, I kind of miss like the really comfy couches. Like, actually, I don't spend too much time out in my living room. Maybe that's probably why. But yeah, I kind of had a similar experience with like buying stuff on Facebook Marketplace. It just depends, like, on when you're selling stuff. I guess it's a little bit tougher because you have to kind of like people just hit you up randomly. And then I did the same thing you did. I was considering selling my old couch, and I just ended up just putting it out there for free. And after a while, like after like a day or two or something, someone finally like budged. So
hell yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's like my roommate Dustin does like pretty well with like selling things on Facebook Marketplace. So I guess if you're good at just like, hey, like just a bunch of people like this kind of stuff, and if you can find the right maybe like Facebook groups or something to put it on, I think that's where it can benefit. But for me, I'm just like, I'm so terrible at like doing that kind of stuff, or like putting stuff up to sell and and all that kind of noise. So
it's difficult too when it's a big item like a couch or a bed or something where you need it gone. You know, like more than you need money for it, you just need it to be fucking gone.
You're totally right, dude. Yeah.
I'm sure it'd be a better experience if I had something that like wasn't taking up space, and I just feel like, hey, why not make a couple bucks at some point? You know what I mean? But
yeah.
Having a thing where it's like, I need this gone today was
taking up all the space in my living room right now. So
yeah.
Well, that's okay, man. At least someone took it. At least someone grabbed it and was able to like use it to their abilities. Like
I hope they're in love. And
sure.
I hope they have a good time with the couch.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go, dude.
There we go.
Joey, would you like to get to some lists?
I would. I'm very excited I think we've got a couple good lists this evening.
Yeah. I don't know where to start because they're both movie related, for sure.
They are.
And they're both very, I would say, kind of interesting movie topics. I think one of them I feel like we've probably touched on before, but the other one that you bring to the podcast tonight is very interesting, and I never really thought of that. Like, oh yeah, these kind of. So I don't know where to start. Do you want to start with yours or?
Sure, we can. So I was thinking about if you're into movies like me, there's all this lore surrounding Hollywood. There's all this lore surrounding movies that almost were, or movies that never were.
Yeah.
So Jonathan, like, and when I say this, I'm talking about movies that came close or were talked about for years and just never materialized. What are your top 5 movies that never were?
I'm gonna pick the one I picked for this one. I don't necessarily want to see this movie, I would say, but when I read about it, I was like, oh, dude, this is like kind of crazy. It's that whole Jurassic Park, like the next Jurassic Park movies.
Yeah.
How they're going to have like velociraptors with like lasers and like armor on them or something like that.
And weren't they going to be like also like spliced with human DNA.
Yeah, there was like a
Yeah.
whole thing about like the Velociraptors and them like kind of combining them with stuff. And I think like the latest Jurassic movies, they have the raptors still kind of the focused dinosaurs, in there. So they I think they eventually did put guns on them, did they? Something like that, right?
They something.
Something. But I remember lasers and like all that kind of like crazy stuff, and I was like, "There's no way this is gonna be like a real movie, or this is like way too far out for like a Jurassic Park movie." But when you read it, and when you kind of like thought about it, it's like, damn, this would be just kind of like a weird, wild journey. Like I would see it just for the interest of the curiosity of just like seeing that happen. So, but it never got made, and
Oh,
they made the other Jurassic movies, and they kind of spun that story there. But yeah, I remember. I don't know if you told me about that particular movie, or if it was like one of those just like rumored things that kind of like just went viral and just kind of like everyone was just talking about it. But it's the one that sticks out the most for me with like that kind of stuff. So yeah,
fair.
number 5, Jurassic, whatever. I don't know even if they had a title for it. So yeah, Jurassic Park.
Love it.
Number 4, I still have to see this documentary, but there's a great documentary produced by well, it's Death. Was it Death of I can't even say it.
The
The
Death
Death
of
of
Superman
Superman
Lives.
Lives. Directed by oh gosh, I don't know.
John Schnepp.
John Schnepp, the late John Schnepp. Definitely he's not with us today, but it was one of his kind of last big kind of projects before he left us. And it's about the Superman story with Nicolas Cage playing Superman, which is
Yes.
Nicolas Cage plus Superman, just like seeing, and like the crazy thing is, like, I guess the whole thing surrounding this movie is like they were in like well into pre-production, right?
Yeah.
As far as like the costumes were kind of the design, the set design, the costumes. You got to see, I think, a photo or footage of like Nicolas Cage in the Superman costume with like long hair or something like that. He looked
Yeah.
kind of crazy. So I still want to watch this documentary. I don't know why it's taking me so long, because it just sounds.
What the fuck?
I
Dude?
don't know, dude.
It's so good.
I you know what? I might have to just watch this after this podcast, because it just seems like such a interesting watch. And there's a lot of, I think, people like Kevin Smith and just others talking about the kind of the movie and how it was put together. And then I guess the initial, when it stopped production, and how that went down. Yeah, what a interesting, like, we could have had like a Nicolas Cage Superman movie.
You know what? I feel like the weirder part is we could have had a Tim Burton Superman.
That too, yeah.
You're
right.
And you've seen, we're fans of Kevin Smith. An Evening with Kevin Smith. He talks about, he tells of a couple very famous stories in that DVD release, or whatever you want to call it. One of them being how he wrote the first couple drafts of that movie.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So, he tells the story of meeting John Peters, and John Peters is laying down doing this, and he's like, I want to visualize the movie as you read it to me, and like just all kinds of crazy shit. And then Burton came on and threw out Kevin Smith's script. And Kevin Smith was like, yeah, at cons and stuff, people would bring me the script and ask me to sign it, and I'd write "fuck Tim Burton." And
because he just had something so against him, huh?
Yeah, so it's pretty funny. But yeah, it's a really good documentary. I totally check it out, because it does kind of give you an insight of how these movies get so far along, and then they go, nah.
Yeah, that's a shame too. There's so much work and that gets involved, and
Not so. I mean, yes, so much work, but like so much money.
that
Like,
too. Yeah, yeah.
think about just a couple scripts on a project that never gets made, or you're sinking hundreds of millions of dollars into. It's
Yeah, and just to see it not see the light of
not
day.
hundreds, but millions.
Yeah, it's man, I can't imagine like how that would be, and yeah, that makes me even more curious to watch the documentary, just to see like kind of aftermath of it, and like how the actors or even the people who worked on the films thought about that, and just like they're yeah, all the money that got spent, costumes that were never seen, kind of stuff like
Right.
that. Like,
Very
um,
sad.
yeah, especially for like that's before like a lot of the big superhero stuff we've had in the last like 10 years. So that's a kind of a big deal. With Superman, the next Superman movie.
My
Um,
my question about these kinds of things is, you have this content that fans like you and me were at least curious about it. We'd pay to read it or see it or whatever. Why not? You already have it written. Why you already have all the designs. Why not hand it off to an artist and create a comic book or a
oh
graphic novel
yeah,
and be like, this is what could have been, or this is at least the story, and
yeah.
here you go.
It doesn't have to just
um
lie within just the film,
it wouldn't
utilizing the film
cost
itself.
it would cost so much. You've already spent this much money developing it. What's a
Yeah,
little
huh?
bit more to pay, for the printing or whatever, and a comic book artist, and you know maybe bring on a writer to adapt it. But a script is so close that I think a good enough artist could figure it out.
Yeah,
um but yeah, like, it seems so obvious to me. um
yeah. You would think that would be the move to at least
because for
salvage the
as
project.
many hundreds of, thousands of movies there are that exist, there's 100 times that have been written that have gone nowhere, that have, or that have gone somewhere and haven't gotten all the way. Like,
Dude,
you know what I mean? It's wild.
that sounds such a painful journey, honestly.
Painful. Painful.
Especially when it's like, yeah, this is not going forward. It's not being made. So,
Yeah.
yeah, very interested to watch that because I definitely want to see how it affected. Obviously there's the budget, but also just the people like working on the movie too.
Fuck.
A gig's a gig sometimes for people, but like, if it's just like, man, all that time you spent on pre-production, just gone. Anyways, number 4, Superman Lives. Number
Wonderful.
3, which I think this movie is gonna get made eventually, but I was a huge fan of the Battlestar Galactica show. Not the '70s one, but I guess like the one that came out
Reboot
after
or whatever.
the rebooted version, which is kind of funny because they had like a few characters from the original that played characters in the
Oh,
show
nice.
as like,
That's
but
cool.
as different people, but like
That's respectful. I
it
like
was
that.
respectful, yeah. But I was like, oh, like the space, I think that type of space sci-fi could work as a movie. And I was reading that like Bryan Singer was possibly gonna develop a movie for Battlestar
No,
Galactica. Oh
no, no.
no!
I mean, everything that's been going on with Bryan Singer, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm just
Okay.
saying before I think all that stuff came to light, he was in talks to do get Battlestar Galactica type movie.
Man.
With like I think a new cast, not like with using the same people from the show. And then of course all the Bryan Singer stuff happened. And then I think Battlestar, I think it's just being like, I think it's just like one of those projects where it's just like being passed down by so many people, and it's like who's gonna make the film, like, or who's gonna eventually realize this version of it, or is it like maybe this just works better as a show, and maybe that maybe there isn't like enough interest in like that kind of space type show or whatever, because we got Star Trek, we got Star Wars, we have other types of things. It would be like if it was a movie, it would be like a brand new franchise for a lot of people who've never seen like Battlestar Galactica. But it's intriguing, and there's like some parts where it reminds me of the show The Expanse on Amazon. So like they could definitely do a version of this show or this movie. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it never really got made. Maybe it was just the difficulty with just trying to figure out how to like, one, you have a dedicated fan base to the show, and it's like, yeah, how do we kind of kickstart like a new space franchise? I think that's kind of it. And maybe at the time the new Star Trek movies were coming out, and Star Wars, I guess, was just on the kind of on the horizon again. So, But
Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't say directed by Bryan Singer. Maybe I preface that
Good.
wrong, but like
Good.
he was in talks to be like one of the dudes to make it, and I honestly don't know who I would pick to do like Battlestar Galactica these days, but you know, I think it would be a cool movie. I don't know if it would fit as a movie. Like they could like the
Yeah.
show worked so well because it was just you know, you can pace it that way. So but I don't know.
And
It's
not everything needs to be a movie.
and not everything needs to be a movie, I guess. Yeah. But it did pique my interest because I just love the show so much, and um, yeah, I just think it'd be interesting, and getting people to like, you know, what's Battlestar Galactica, or maybe they just haven't had a chance to check it out. Like I always like it when stuff like that comes out and it kind of kickstarts like new fandom and a healthy fandom, I would say. Not like Star Wars fandom sometimes, but
You know, that's a whole. Let's not
that's a
even
whole
get into
other-
that. Yeah, let's not even do that.
All right, so Battlestar Galactica, number 2. This one I could totally see being a movie, and it was like kind of rumored to be a movie. I don't think they even got to the pre-production stage, but it's the BioShock movie, based off the
Ooh.
BioShock series. Rumored was Gore Verbinski to direct and kind of pilot that franchise. I don't know. I like the world of BioShock, and I think it could work for films, and maybe again it's just like the kind of curse of the video game movies. Like, you know, there's like a lot of content there, but trying to pull a story from it may or may not, you know, work well as a movie.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, it would be kind of and it's quite a cerebral kind of movie. You know, it's very out there, and you know, maybe I could see it being made today. You know, I think a lot of people would be down to see something like that, but I don't know. We'll have to see what that goes with. And then my number 1, which didn't know too much about this movie when it came out, and it is a Marvel movie, but I was kind of down to see Edgar Wright's Ant-Man, like
Yo,
his version
that's
of
a
Ant-Man.
great call. That's a great call.
And I know he got like, I think he had still some like writer credits,
Story by.
story by credit like on the movie. But you know, I remember when like, you know, the news was coming out for Ant-Man, and it's like Edgar Wright's doing this shit. I'm like, dude, that's gonna be nuts. Like I could totally get down with Edgar Wright doing a Marvel movie, and this character I'm not really familiar with, but I think he can like make it, you know, just so interesting, and I love the way he directs, and then yeah, and then he left the project, you know, I think for like creative differences or
Creative
whatever.
differences. Yeah.
And you know, I didn't you know, I thought the movie was okay, and you know, I think when I watched the movie, like it didn't feel like there was that many like hands that have touched it, I think. And I don't know if we've had this conversation before, but like it didn't feel like, oh man, there's been so many people like on this movie, like it feels
Sure,
like
yeah.
jumbled, I guess, right? Like it felt like it was a decent Marvel movie. It didn't like wow me or anything, but like it was you know, it was a good like watch, and it didn't feel like, man, this was tainted with like so many different people on this project. But I do wish it had the Edgar Wright like feel and spin to it, and
Because there's a couple moments that is the one that always comes to mind is like when he first goes to Michael Douglas's mansion, and Michael Douglas has all the ants doing the sugar and everything. Like, I would want to see Edgar Wright do that scene.
yeah,
That's the scene where I'm like, that's where I really want to see him do his thing.
and it's kind of funny because I always like Edgar Wright. He does like stuff with like making very small actions or movements be so big when he films
Yes.
them. And
With
I
the
think,
whip pans and the
yeah, and it would just work so well for like Ant-Man, where you're having like small scale kind of, you know, characters, and you know, in this-
totally.
down in this like world, and yeah, I just think it would be super cool. So
It's a
yeah,
great call.
yeah, that's
a
like
great number
those are
one.
kind of like the ones I think about off the top of my head. I'm sure there's a lot of movies that probably have made it like kind of close to like maybe Superman Lives, where they're like in pre-production and they're about to like greenlight the whole thing, and then the plug gets pulled. So I'm actually interested to hear your list, Joey, because I'm sure there's probably more movies out there like that. So
Funny you should mention movies like that, Shawnee.
hey.
At number 5, I've got George Miller's Justice League Mortal.
Oh,
This was supposed to have our boy Army Hammer
That's
Mr. Cannibal
right.
himself playing Batman.
That's
Um,
right.
DJ Corona, I believe, was going to play Superman. Who the fuck was Wonder Woman? I'm blanking on Wonder Woman. The kid from the OC was going to be the Flash.
Oh man.
Was it Common was going to be Green Lantern?
Let's
I don't know.
see.
This movie had, but it's George Miller. Like, you think about Mad Max, Fury Road, and you're like, fuck. Like this
This kind
guy.
of movie would be.
But I remember this was, I want to say they were supposed to go into production around 2008. 2006, between 2006 2008. I'm not remembering it correctly, but I specifically remember being in the comic book store um, over on Ocean, and Gary of Nerdrotics being like, because he gets like insider information, not shit that I see on regular movie sites, but he gets like insider shit that I believe. And the thing that he was saying was that Christopher Nolan told WB, if you have another Batman concurrent to mine, I walk.
Oh
But
really?
because this movie had the costumes, they were like set to shoot. And I want to say it was like the weekend before they started principal photography, they pulled the plug.
Whoa. Damn.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's like.
And it had to have been after Dark Knight. Chris Nolan would not have had that much power before Dark Knight. So
Yeah.
it had to have been after Dark Knight. And it was probably one of his bargaining chips to come back and do a third one. He probably wouldn't have if this movie got made.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting. Holy crap,
Hmm.
dude. Yeah, I'm just looking.
Um,
I'm just looking it up. I was like, man, yeah,
yeah.
I'll save this tab because I want to see like the cat, like the. Did they have like?
There's
I'm
an
sure
there,
they had like photos, right, of like them possibly looking
there's
like.
it's a very like far away shot. I want to say John Schnepp was actually the person to post it, but you can find it online. Yeah.
Whoa, dude, that's
Yeah.
nuts.
It's pretty wild. Um, Number 4, there was going to be a Lord of the Rings movie starring the Beatles,
What?
or at least they wanted to make a Lord of the Rings movie starring the Beatles.
Really?
And
What?
I've heard a couple different stories of why it got shut down. I want to say that like Tolkien's family was like absolutely not. But according to legend as well, they wanted Stanley Kubrick to direct it. Could you imagine?
Whoa.
And I want to say that it was going to be Paul and Ringo as Frodo and Sam.
Oh my god.
George Harrison was going to be Gandalf, and John Lennon was going to be Smeagol. Uh,
Like
what's his,
Gollum
what's
with
his
him?
Gollum?
Gollum?
Yeah, yeah,
What?
yeah. Viewer discretion. I've only ever seen. I saw the first movie when it came out on DVD. I saw the second one in theaters. I never saw the third one.
It's
I'm,
I it's like if you're into fantasy kind of stuff,
I'm
I
not
think
into fantasy,
yeah, you would like it.
as I have the Batcave behind me. I'm not into fantasy.
But I never watched the other like the Hobbit movies, which I heard weren't as good as the original 3, but
I sat through the first one, the X, and it was like fucking German. I couldn't understand a word of it. And not fucking German, just like it was a foreign language that I don't speak. You know what I mean? I'm not like singling out for any weird reason. But yeah, like I was like, what is happening? And how am I supposed to understand what is happening as a person coming in blind? No, those were not for
no.
me.
No.
And the 48 frames per second, get out of here.
Oh yeah, that was
Um,
the big thing that a lot of people
mhm,
commented on for that movie when it
yeah.
came out, from what I remember.
But yeah, but the Beatles, Lord of the
Dude,
Rings.
that is so
Um,
trippy. I
and I don't know which part is more interesting, the Beatles or Kubrick.
yeah.
You know.
Because
Anyway,
like Kubrick can make it pretty interesting, but like I think the Beatles probably because it's like, dude, this is the Beatles, like, and
yeah,
they've done like a few like films, right? But I think them like acting those parts maybe like would be very
that would have
interesting.
been awesome.
You know
That would have
what?
been so good.
Honestly, if this is like a very known thing, I bet I wouldn't be surprised if someone tried to do like one of those deep fake movies of taking like the Beatles faces and try to put them on like the
I'm
Lord of the Rings
googling
movies.
this. I'm googling this
It's
right now
probably
because
it's,
that is something I need
I need,
immediately.
yeah. It's like we need that in our lives
Um,
now.
dear sweet imaginary audience, if any of you guys, uh,
Yeah.
oh, this is good. This is good. Sean, is there a way to throw this in the feed?
Ooh, let's see. I can't do it on Zoom, but
At least look at what I just sent you on the chat, and I'll throw it in on the edit on YouTube.
let's see. Oh, sorry. Whoops, whoops, whoops. Oh my
So cool. That is so fucking cool.
god.
Um, yeah.
Oh shit. Okay.
Anyway,
I love the poster. It's kind of
it's
cool.
so good. The Beatles.
That's an interesting one.
Number
Yeah, I've never
so good.
I've never heard of that one, dude.
Yeah, yeah. Number three, James Cameron's Spider-Man.
Oh, I
Um,
do remember this
James
one
Cameron
being
was
mentioned.
set
Yeah.
to direct a Spider-Man movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio in the 90s. And
Yeah.
Doc Ock was going to be the villain, and he was going to be played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he was going to have a one-liner of "Okie dokie." That's what he was going to say throughout the
Okie
movie. Okie
dokie.
dokie. Um, I really want to see this movie. I really, really want to see the movie.
Yeah.
And I guess it's Cameron's script is where the organic web came from.
Oh,
So
interesting.
there are elements of this movie that made it into Raimi's Spider-Man. I don't know how much, but I think a fairly good portion. Because this, I
Interesting.
mean, Spider-Man
Yeah.
was developed to death for like, a good decade plus before,
Before
2 decades plus, before the first movie came out. But yeah.
Interesting.
Um,
Yeah.
but I
Oh,
mean, could you imagine Cameron? This is right after. Is it right after or right before Terminator 2?
oh yeah. So be just super like action packed.
Yeah.
I don't know about Arnold Schwarzenegger as the villain, but
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Leo, I don't know. Leo would be interesting. Like I don't know.
I don't think Leo was
he's
really
too
an actor yet at that
at
point.
that point, huh? Yeah.
Sorry.
Although I'll talk about it in my share time. I do have something related to Leo
Oh,
and I guess Sam Raimi in a way.
and what?
I have a share time topic later. Just a movie I watched recently, actually.
Gotcha,
but,
gotcha.
We'll talk about it later.
Right on.
Cool.
Number two, my boy Martin Scorsese. Hello, Scorsese. How are you, sir? He's got so many movies that have not been made that he wants to make, and two are like at the top of my list of I want to see that.
Okay.
More so the Ramones. He was attached very briefly to make a movie about the Ramones.
About the Ramones. Interesting.
Man, because he would have done 70s New York. He would have done that whole thing.
Yeah.
It would have been really good.
Damn. That would be cool. Scorsese doing the Ramones? What?
It'd probably take place at CBGB, and Hilly Crystal would probably be like tied up with the mob or something like that. Who knows?
Dude.
I don't know.
Whoa.
And I'm just spitballing off the top of my
made.
head, but I want to see that now. And then he was also supposed to make a Dean Martin movie starring Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks?
Tom Hanks is Dean Martin. I didn't like it. And it's not so much that I want to see that movie. I want to see Tom Hanks and Scorsese work together.
Ooh, okay.
That
would be an interesting pairing, actually.
That's not bad. Wouldn't be bad.
Both very. I mean, Tom Hanks.
I mean, their brands are completely different, but I mean, it'd be interesting to see.
They're top at their class, though. I would say, right? Like they're.
Oh yeah.
You know, very very established as a director and an actor. Dude, that's
big time.
Interesting. Okay, Scorsese, Ramones.
Yeah.
Dude.
My number one though, Shawnee. This is like the big.
This is the big one, huh? Okay.
Cinematic myth of what could have been is Stanley Kubrick's Napoleon. Stanley Kubrick worked most of his life to make a Napoleon movie, and he never got to.
He never got to, huh? Wow, that's insane.
Was
there any movie made, like a Napoleon movie made, or?
I mean, I'm sure there is. I don't know of any,
But on
but I'm
a,
sure there is.
I guess on a scale of that of or with a director like that though.
And like
Yeah.
to think about, like, because I absolutely love Barry Lyndon. And
Mhm.
have you seen this movie?
I have not. I have
Oh,
not.
I mean, you need a day for it. It's a 3 hours, and it takes its time.
Okay.
It's not a exciting 3 hours, but it's so fucking funny, like darkly. I don't know that it's trying to be funny. I hope and think deep down that it is, but it doesn't present itself as a comedy. But I was laughing my ass off the entire time. Um, but it's also one of the most beautiful pictures I've ever seen. And he based all of his shots on Renaissance paintings,
Ooh.
um,
So they
or
all look
paintings from like the
really
1700s and things like that. Yeah,
dude, that's super
it's
cool.
and he uses as most as he can. The myth is that he used no natural light whatsoever. I think there's like one or two shots where he had to. Um, but NASA developed these special lenses for him so that he could shoot just by candlelight. Um,
What?
and so you're seeing how like the world actually probably looked back
Look
then.
back. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Um,
That's an interesting.
but to think about that movie as a template, and then to think about what he would have done with Napoleon, who you could see him infusing bits of Alex DeLarge from A Clockwork Orange, or elements of Full Metal Jacket in there.
Yeah.
Like, um,
What, dude?
I'm
That's
sad we never got that.
yeah. That's very interesting because I
Yeah,
can't really recall a movie about Napoleon or as like just kind of noteworthy as that. And then Stanley Kubrick. Yeah. Heck yeah, dude. Could
yeah.
totally see that. Oh, what? Dude,
Anyway,
that's like blowing my
yeah,
mind. Sorry. It's
yeah,
a
as
very
it
interesting
should,
thing to think about.
as it should. Um,
Dude,
yeah,
this is I kind of want to revisit this one like again or something or maybe talk about it in the future cuz
yeah,
it just seems like there's just a lot of interesting stories behind like some of these movies that like could have been. And we all hope we all have our personal like, oh man, I wish this movie was made because I want to see more Scorsese stuff, stuff with his like Scorsese specifically with like music too. I think that was really cool. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
so it's all that like kind of dreamer stuff. But I mean, you never know. Sometimes maybe like someone will just maybe this movie might get made eventually or uh
Well, it's almost more interesting when they do get made, but by a different creative team. And
yeah,
then you're left wondering, fuck, what if
like
they had done it?
yeah, how
You
different
know?
would it have been if this team took over or did this movie?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's super interesting. And
Pretty wild,
it
man.
probably you said it probably happens all the time, right? Like
Oh, dude.
all
Yeah.
the time.
It happens more often than movies get made,
Dude, that's
you
nuts.
know? Um,
Dude, crazy.
Jonathan,
Yes.
do you have a list for me, my friend?
Yeah, it's another movie related list, and I feel like we've done this one in the past, but uh, it's definitely a cool little topic. So, based on true story movies or films out there, I guess they could be loosely, some of them are like kind of, it's based on an event, but they made a
Sure.
movie like this. But yeah, what are your top fives for those?
I made a rule for myself because I was looking, I was like, shit, I could make a top five just Scorsese biopic
But
movies,
yeah,
or and his movies don't, even when they are like technically, I guess, a biopic, they don't feel like it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I'm leaving him off altogether.
Whoa.
Otherwise, my
Okay.
list would be full of his movies.
Scorsese.
Um, Number five, Sidney Lumet's Dog Day Afternoon.
Oh, okay.
Al Pacino, John Cazale. Um, they try to rob a bank, and everything goes wrong, and it's funny, and it's sad, and it's scary, and it's fucking visceral. Um, it's hard to talk about this movie without giving everything away. Just if you ever see it streaming, fucking watch it. It's so good. The acting is brilliant. You know, especially, I think we see a lot like on our timelines and feeds like Attica, Attica. That's
Yeah.
what this is from that. So Dog Day Afternoon, Pacino at his very best.
Oh, Pacino. Yeah.
Um, number 4, Tombstone.
Oh, Tombstone.
Kurt Russell as Wyatt Earp. It's my favorite of those kind of movies because it's the only movie where I look at the people on screen and I go, yeah, that's probably what they looked like. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
not in the sense that like I need someone to look like Wyatt Earp, but I need them to look weathered. I need them to look kind of malnourished. These people back then didn't live healthy, good lives, and so they were very weather beaten. Their eyes were all beady and sunken in, and you look at the photo or the daguerreotypes from these times, and it's like it's frightening to look at. And I think Tombstone really captured, especially Kurt Russell, really captured kind of the physicality of that
Mhm.
time period. Um, so yeah,
Tombstone. I haven't seen that
long
one
time.
in a minute too, man.
Dude, it's such a good fucking
I might
movie.
go. I
It's
might go
such
on
a good movie.
like a Western tip like soon. I think I might just
I
watch a
mean,
bunch of Western movies.
have you seen The Searchers?
No.
I recommend that. Gorgeous. One of the most
The
beautiful pictures ever made.
Searchers.
Yeah. John Wayne, John Ford. It's good.
Classic too.
Yes.
The
Yes.
Searchers.
So yeah. Number 3, A League of Their Own.
Oh yeah, dude.
I adore this movie.
Love
It's
this
such a good
movie.
movie. And I don't know how true the story is. I know that it's based around like a league that actually happened. I don't know if any of the characters are based on real people, but um, it's a thing that happened, and I think it's presented in such a sweet, wonderful way. Penny Marshall directed it. Tom Hanks gives one of his last great comedic performances. Um, and you've got Gina Davis, you've got I'm blanking on her name, but her sister Kit. John Lovitz makes an appearance.
That's right, John
Um,
Lovitz.
but yeah, it's such a great story. It's such a great I don't know. All the characters are very strong. All the
Mhm.
relationships are just well painted. You really get to know these people, and yeah, it's a beautiful movie. I love this movie. A League of Their Own.
League of Their Own.
Um, number 2, Walk the Line.
Oh, dude. Yeah. That was
Um,
gonna be in my list.
I was surprised that I put it at 2. Actually, I thought this would have come out as number 1 for me, but I had to be honest with myself, and I think it's at number 2.
Number 2.
And I'll tell you why. I love this movie. I really do. But having read both of Cash's autobiographies, uh, watched so many things on him, and then learning about like the reality of him and June's relationship, which wasn't as Hollywood and picture perfect as the movie paints it. Uh, the movie gets a lot wrong that I, as a deep fan, know. You know what I mean? Joaquin Phoenix should have gotten Joker skinny for the role of Cash, especially during his drug period. Um, he played Cash as kind of a dumb Southern boy. Um, when Cash was very smart, he was a smart dude. Um, and he was, I don't know. The more I know about Johnny Cash, the less I believe in Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Um, and June Carter may have captured the spirit, or Reese Witherspoon may have captured the spirit of June Carter, but doesn't really have the voice or anything. Which that's more window dressing. That's not as important.
Mhm.
But yeah, I do adore this movie. I love this movie. I love the music in it. I love the myth of Johnny and June. I love it so much. And I'm just a huge Johnny Cash fan. Cash is
Mhm.
king, in my opinion. But yeah, because of all the kind of not inaccuracies, but I think we could have gotten a more interesting story if they were more honest in their approach.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So it does fall a little too Hollywood, a little too picture perfect.
Yeah.
So, number one, um, 61.
Really?
It's
Okay.
an HBO original movie directed by Billy Crystal. Yeah, you know, it's I think one of my favorite movies actually. I got to watch it again soon, but it's about, the home run race between Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, it captures the 60s so well. The music to the dress to the, I mean, the clothes, the cars, everything,
Mm-hmm.
the look of the bleachers, there's such great detail in this movie. And uh, Billy Pepper looks like Roger Maris. Uh, Thomas Jane looks
Oh,
pretty
that's
good
right.
as
Thomas
Mickey
Jane's
Mantle,
awesome. Yeah.
All the supporting characters are wonderful. Everyone feels like they are alive in the 60s. There's no actor that sticks out to me that's like, oh, this is a production. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
transported back to that time. Um, and they didn't sugarcoat anything either. You know what I mean? They showed Mickey Mantle kind of as the womanizer that he was. They showed Roger Maris as kind of the strict kind of dude that he was. And the mental and physical toll that, you know this race that, kind of took on them. It's a great movie. It's a really, really great movie. And I feel like nobody knows about it. So
It's
61 with an asterisk.
asterisk. Yeah.
um Really, really great movie.
I gotta give that, yeah, another rewatch. I was actually perusing HBO the other day, and I saw that on there. I was like, oh man, I remember that being a really good movie.
Yeah,
Um,
it is.
nice. I'm that's a
Yeah,
surprise. That surprised me actually. That last one, Joy.
yeah. I
Uh,
like to throw a surprise in there every
a
once in a while.
surprise or two in there.
you know
Yeah, my list is not really that crazy, but I think some of these are again like true to a certain extent. But number five. Oh, excuse me, guys. Number five, I've got Catch Me If You Can.
Ooh.
Really loved Leo and Tom Hanks in this, and just the idea of having this kind of young, kind of scam artist, and this dude who's just kind of he's always one step ahead of Tom Hanks's character, and I just love that kind of aspect in the movie, and just to think that like, man, this was like a real dude who was able to like, portray himself as a doctor and like all these other characters. I definitely want to look more into like how true that is, but just to be able to see like a character, to believe someone would do that and kind of get away with that kind of stuff is pretty mind blowing. So,
Yeah.
and then I loved Leo and Tom Hanks and their kind of cat and mouse thing and throughout the movie. So, Catch Me If You Can for number five.
That's a good five.
Number five. Number four, I've got The Social Network.
Ooh.
Um, I'm sure this is again, there's probably a lot of gray areas in here, but when it first came out, I was curious about, wow, like this is, how did the story of the Facebook, come out, and it there's a lot of topics, a lot of very interesting topics they go over in the movie, as far as just things that happen when you have a business and it starts to grow and it becomes this whole thing that's changed the aspect of how we communicate with people these days, and just like the idea of social networks and social media that was like not a thing how many years ago, like, so it was a very interesting movie. I remember the music was done by, he's the gentleman from Nine Inch Nails, Trent Reznor. So
Trent Reznor.
soundtrack was crazy. But yeah, really enjoyed the film. I think I'm sure it didn't all go down like that, but there are some like pretty heavy topics they had to get into, and especially when you have such a company that's just on the rise and is so big, just all the different things that go along with that. And yeah, avid used to be an
Oh yeah.
avid user of Facebook, but Guess that's not happening
Not
these
so
days.
much of these days.
Not so much these days.
No.
Okay. Next one, I've got number 3. I've got Moneyball, which starred
Nice.
who's this in this one? Brad Pitt and
Yona Hill.
Jonah Hill,
Johan Hill.
Johan Hill. A very interesting concept for a sports movie, which I did not know about, but using kind of stats and numbers to predict kind of the best team to put together for the Oakland A's, and
Yeah.
yeah, very fascinating, and just kind of the way they're able to explain and kind of like this thing gonna work, and being able to kind of go through that process of like can we use numbers, can we use statistics to really figure out the best team and the best outcome of the season and seasons to come. And I think that just like immediately caught me, and I definitely want to like I think when I watched the movie I probably looked up like the actual thing or whatever and how they went about doing it. But it is a very interesting kind of concept for a movie. And most sports movies, they're kind of they're it's still a sports movie hand in hand, but like you just don't gonna get stuff like that where you have kind of a we're using like odds and like logic to like figure this thing out, and not necessarily like your the skills of the team and all that kind of stuff. And being able to like show people that, and like wow, like you can actually do this and find players that will be able to do this to the team. So I think that was very interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I love movies that can do that. That can kind of take these big concepts that are like, if you're reading about them, you might get bored or what have you, and they find a way to really kind of make it interesting and digestible.
yes, and I love Brad Pitt. He's he's always interesting in all the roles he's in. So number 3,
He's wonderful.
Moneyball. And then let's see, number 2, Imitation Game. I have from 2014,
Ooh.
starring Benedict Cumberbatch. It was pretty much the team behind cracking the like German Enigma coding, like how sorry, coding. So many, yeah, pretty much decoding the Enigma codes that they were having like during the wars, and being able to create kind of similar, funny enough with Moneyball, but being able to create pretty much like one of the first kind of computers to pretty much decode and encrypt this this coding system, and leaving it up to technology pretty much at this time to solve this issue, and to hopefully give them the advantage and the way to decrypt the code, so they can obviously call off battles, or call off certain things that are happening where people are less in danger. And again, I love like these kind of true story things where like they put these characters and everyone's like shitting on them usually throughout the first half of the movie, right? So you get that a lot in this, where it's like how can you do this? How can you crack this unbreakable code of these? How can you do this? Like it's such a thing that gets the code changes every so often, and it's like these things that might be humanly possible as far as just our brains being able to process it, but being able to put the trust in a team of scholars and scientists and people to pretty much help win the war using their logic again. So, and I always love movies like that, where it's like where it's like the smarts kind of out, the smarts out they outsmart the kind of the physical stuff, or maybe some of the the kind of like that kind of stuff happens. So anyways, an Intimidation Game, I loved Benedict Cumberbatch in the movie, and it is very intriguing, and that machine did exist, and they were able to somehow make it work and decode those messages and find advantages of winning the war. So I think that was just such an interesting story to tell. And then of course you don't get that many kind of like those kind of opportunities where you have I wouldn't say this, but in war, in even some of the past wars, there's a lot of teachers, and actually the great example of this is our man Tom Hanks in Saving Private Ryan, where he
Hmm.
mentions he's a an educator, he's a teacher, and taking kind of like the soldiers out of the war part of the, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like,
Hmm.
this is a war movie, but like we're focusing on another part of this, is the people who are on the mainland trying to figure this
Sure.
stuff out, So, but yeah, Imitation Game for number 2, and then
Nice.
for my number 1, I just watched this just recently, the Zodiac movie, or Zodiac,
Right on. Nice.
with our man RDJ and
RDJ.
RDJ.
Erdage.
And I mean, I don't remember too much of, because this was like in the early 80s, I think, like early to late,
60s.
early 60s,
Yeah.
60s. So it was definitely not in our lifetime when this happened, and I don't think my parents were even, like, my family was even in America at this time.
Oh, see, my mom was like, yeah, as kids we would play, not like they'd play a twisted version of hide and seek, like, oh, gotta run, the Zodiac's gonna get you.
Dude, that's so crazy.
Like, as children,
It was
like,
so
it's
known
wild.
at the time, right? And
Mhm.
in the public, eye, because of how the Zodiac killer was, being, it was reporting and, kind of connecting with the newspaper outlets and kind of making his presence known. And the movie is definitely quite a ride, and there's tons of this kind of mystery of the Zodiac killer, and I think Jake Gyllenhaal, both Jake Gyllenhaal and like Robert Downey Jr., they get so close. They have like so many moments where they get really close to getting kind of close to finding out who the Zodiac killer is. They even have like a suspect too, I think, at the end of the movie, and it's like, and it's great because like I think by the end of it, what wasn't like the Zodiac killer still a mystery? Like, he wasn't
Yeah, he's never been identified.
identified. So and then of course it takes place in the Bay Area in San Francisco, and our hometown, and just knowing that like this was like a thing at this time, and like, again, going back to your mom, right? And it affected a lot of people's lives at that time. It was such a known thing to talk about, and I know it was about killings and stuff, but it probably became such a story to talk about because it was just so mysterious.
Yeah.
So, and then I just love this portrayal of it, and I guess it did fill me in on kind of how it was, and kind of how interesting this killer was with the reaching out to newspapers and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, the Zodiac, 2007.
Wonderful. That's a great number 1. It's a very good number 1.
It was I just recently watched it. I can't remember where I watched it on, maybe like Netflix or something, but it was I was still like, it was still kind of creeping me out still. So like,
Yeah.
and how many years later?
It
so.
is. It's ugh.
Yeah, there's some really there's some graphic stuff in that movie, but yeah, that's my top 5, dude. I actually really enjoyed these top 5s tonight, man. Like, they've been so much excuse me, so much fun, and I love it when we have like kind of double movie lists going on. We get to talk a lot of movies tonight, so
Love talking movies.
there we go.
Right on, man.
guys.
Jonathan,
Yes.
do you have anything you'd like to share with our dear, sweet, lovely imaginary audience this week?
Yeah, I was gonna talk about it earlier, and I totally forgot what I was gonna talk about. Oh God. Yeah, I was. What was I gonna talk about? Something to do with Leo.
Yes.
I also watched another movie just recently, and it was just a on the whim kind of thing. And now I kind of watch more Western movies, but I watched Quick and the Dead just recently. It's not my first time seeing
Love
it.
that movie.
But I always forget it's directed by Sam Raimi. It's got like a bunch of people in it. Like Russell Crowe's in it, young Leo's in it.
I think it's Russell Crowe's first American movie.
Yeah, and it feels like it. He's kind of like the side character. Like, he's not like, he is kind of a focus. Almost right?
a love interest.
Almost a love interest.
Yeah.
Sharon Stone is like a badass, like cowboy, like cowboy in it. And I think there's a great story with her and like why she came to this one town. And I love it because it's like it's one of those Western movies where it's just set like in that town. Like they don't go anywhere else. I think in the movie, like they're just like there and through the whole movie, and it's such a great like. I forgot how fun it was. Not fun, but like I forgot how like entertaining it was. And young Leo, fuck man, that guy's
great.
He is so like at that age, he is just still so like captivating. Like he immediately steers you towards him. And there are moments though when he's like in the cowboy gear, and I'm like, damn, I'm getting the Candyland vibes from
Shit, that's funny.
Django Unchained. And it's like because he has that like same maybe it's the same like kind of facial like expressions, like the kind of he's kind of like a smart, he's kind of a cocky one, a smart ass, I would say, in this movie. He's like, I'm the best shooter, and so
he's an arrogant little shit.
Yeah, he is. And yeah, there's some very interesting moments with him, especially near kind of the end. But yeah, it's funny like when you can see someone like that and you're like, damn, like even earlier on in his career, like he was gonna command the movie scene, how many years later. And yeah, it's just it's amazing when you see like movies where like maybe Russell Crowe, like his first American debut, like seeing like the pathway of where that is. And then like Sam Raimi, seeing a Sam Raimi film too, and like now getting more into like directors. And it's like, dude, this feels such like a Sam Raimi movie. Like it's great when you can finally pull stuff like that from your favorite directors, and or movies. You've been exposed to so many directors, and like the kind of things you're looking for, and maybe it's the kind of the signature stuff that gets pulled over to like stuff like Spider-Man or like. So I don't know why it's just a movie I enjoyed, and I've seen it already before, and I'm sure we've talked about it on the show with like the Westerns and stuff, but I just have to recommend it to anyone who has not seen it. Like it was just such a fun movie to watch, and it's a very simple story. So I think you guys will have a lot of fun.
Great rec. That's a really great movie. It's not talked about ever. It's forgotten at this point, and it shouldn't be. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a nice little gem in there, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's nice share for this week, dude. Nothing too crazy. So, Joey,
I love it.
What do you have to share this week?
My brother, his friend Alex Baldridge, started a podcast, the DNP Pod. So you check him out, give him a follow on Twitter, DNP_pod. Check him out on Spotify. Check him out anywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple Music, all that good stuff. I listen. They've got, maybe by the time this is out, they'll have 2 episodes up, but they had 1 up, and I listened to it, and you would think these guys have been doing it forever. I'm so excited that Matty P is doing this, so it's very cool, and we're gonna have to jump on their show. We're gonna have to have them on our show.
We're gonna do some
collaborations. It's gonna be one of those things. Yes. So yeah, DNP Pod, check it out. They do sports. They do pop culture. It's a lot like not a lot like our show, but it's like our show. It's 2 buddies, kind of shooting the shit that they're interested in. So yeah. DNP Pod.
DNP Pod. I love that, dude.
DNP Pod. Yes. Jonathan.
Yes.
Where can we find more of your work on the internet this week, my friend?
You guys can find me on Instagram at Sean Day Music, and also my website, seandaymusic.net. Joey, where can we find you on the internet?
You can check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Joey Prodi, and on my website, joeyprodi.com. You can check and on YouTube. Please check us out on YouTube. It's a lot of fun. We're also on Facebook at Top 5 Podcast. We're on Apple Music, Google Play, and SoundCloud. So please give us a like, give us a listen, give us a follow, give us your love, and we will give you, Jonathan.
All the love we never made. I don't know, dude. That's the
All the love we never made. Until
never
next
made.
week.
That sounds so bad. I'm sorry.
Until next time. I'm Joey Parati.
And I'm Sean Day.
Thanks
Thanks
for
for
listening.
listening.
The show has some difficulties,
No.
but we got through them.